Housing TV Africa, your first in housing development broadcasting.
Hello and welcome to Housing TV News at the top of the hour, coming to you from our studios in the nation's capital, Abuja. I'm Joyce Onso. Our top stories. Tinubu approves Federal Polytechnic in Gwarimpa, names it after himself. Minister Boson explains 50% telecom tariff hike due to rising costs. Governor Zodinma to launch affordable housing projects for low-income earners in Owerri. Auditor General directs Federal Housing Authority to account for 2.57 billion naira spent without approval. On the foreign scene, tragic fire claims 76 lives at Turkish ski resort hotel. We begin with national matters. President Bola Tinubu has approved the establishment of a Federal Polytechnic in Gwarimpa, one of the largest estates in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. According to a letter dated January 16, 2025, addressed to FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, confirmed that the institution named Bola Ahmed Tinubu Polytechnic Gwarimpa will focus on promoting technological, vocational and entrepreneurial training in line with the national policy on education. The Minister of Education requested the FCT Minister to propose temporary and permanent sites for the Polytechnic's takeoff. A technical team from the Federal Ministry of Education and the National Board for Technical Education is expected to inspect the recommended sites before final approval is granted. Reacting to the development, the chairman of the Abuja Municipal Area Council, Christopher Zaka Makalangu, commended President Tinubu for fulfilling the dreams of FCT residents. In a statement through his Special Assistant on Media and Public Affairs, Kingsley Madoki, Makalangu described the establishment of the Polytechnic as a significant milestone for the FCT, adding that it would enhance development in the region. He also lauded the FCT minister for his pivotal role in actualizing the initiative. The federal government has called on foreign businessmen to harness the immense opportunities in Nigeria and other African nations through investments. It admonished them to discard the negative tales they hear and maximize Africa's readiness for economic transformation. Vice President Kashim Shettima stated this at the ongoing annual meeting of the 2025 World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland on Tuesday. The forum is themed Roadmap to Co-Create Investment Opportunities for Africa's Frontier Markets. Tuesday's session was co-chaired by Merrick Dusek, Managing Director of the World Economic Forum, and Marilo Akin Olugbede, Senior Vice President of African Development Bank Group. Shettima told participants at the session that Nigeria was poised to invade the global business platform with modernization and robust investments. He added that President Bola Tinubu, a seasoned chartered accountant, was working to make Nigeria an investment destination in Africa. The Minister of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy, Tijani Bosun, has attributed the recent 50% increase in telecommunications tariffs to global inflation and rising operational costs. Just recently, a stakeholders meeting in the communications sector approved a 50% tariff hike on calls and data. While appearing before the Joint Committees on Communication, the minister explained that the decision aligns with broader economic patterns, where tariffs lead to higher consumer prices due to the added costs on imported goods. Speaking to journalists shortly after defending his ministry's 12 billion naira budget for 2025, Bosun reiterated that the 50% adjustment is consistent with economic trends. The minister added that historically, tariffs act as a sales tax, resulting in a one-off price increase rather than sustained inflation.
Part of the development, I think the hike is also based on inflation globally. This is a sector that has not increased price for a long time. In fact, what government has been doing is managing the situation. The companies have been crying out for a long time that they're struggling. The cost of diesel, you can imagine how much they bought diesel last year and how much it's going for this year. And this is not a problem that is unique to Nigeria. But what we've done with them is saying that telecommunication services are now extremely important to our people. So it's not something you can just increase price haphazardly. But also, how do we support them to ensure that these companies continue to stay sustainable? This is a sector that employs about 15,000 people directly, the employees of these MNOs. But also indirectly, I think there's about 500,000 people working in the sector, whether those that are selling recharge cards or any of those services. We have to make sure that the sector continues to stay sustainable. But at the same time, we don't want to inflict pain on Nigerians. So they were claiming for 100% increase in tariff. I think as you can see from what NCC released yesterday, we had a lot of back and forth. They've been talking about since even before we were appointed. The first time I met them almost 16, 17 months ago, it was the same thing they were talking about. But now I think we've settled at about 50% to ensure that they can find ways to stay sustainable, but also the price hike is not significant to the point where it becomes painful for our people.
Bustle further disclosed that the federal government plans to invest 6 billion naira to deploy 90,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable, which will expand the country's capacity from 35,000 kilometers to 125,000 kilometers. During the 2025 budget defense session, the minister described the planned deployment of fiber optic cables as an initiative aimed at fostering growth in critical communication sectors.
We've worked hard internally as professionals and political appointees, also with the support of the committee chairs, to secure the commitment of the World Bank, AFDB, and a number of other DFIs to help us invest in a $2 billion project that will lay 90,000 kilometers of fiber optic cables across this country. And our hope is that this will not just provide opportunities for existing MNOs. This will help us create new small businesses that will be responsible for laying 90,000 kilometers of fiber network. This will help us create nothing less than 10,000 jobs of young men and women that will drive the deployment of this cable all over our country. The 90,000 kilometers cable will be everywhere in the country. This is the plan that has been made by the broadband plan.
The last tariff hike was 12 years ago, and this new increase comes amid 2 years of agitation by telecom operators who had been demanding a 100% increment. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso, has vowed to tackle the buying and selling of naira notes, which has become widespread in the country. The CBN governor made this vow in a keynote address at the inaugural Stakeholders Conference of the Committee of Heads of Banks Operations in Lagos, with the theme, Commoditization of Naira, the Way Forward. Represented by the Senior Special Advisor to the CBN Governor, Fatai Karim, Cardoso stated that the buying and selling of the naira poses a significant threat not only to the banking sector but also to the daily lives of Nigerians who rely on the currency for transactions. Cardoso stated that the Apex Bank's strategies to tackle the menace of the buying and selling of the naira are enhancing public engagement awareness on the responsible use of the naira, strengthening the cash management system to ensure fair distribution across the country, collaborating with law enforcement agencies to enforce existing regulations and bring perpetrators to book, promotes digital payment channels to reduce the use of cash transactions and the need to escalate digital errors to the banks and the CBN. We'll take a pause here. News stories from the build sector are up next. Stay with us.
Get credible and authentic housing news at your fingertips by downloading the Housing TV mobile app. You can also join the African International Housing Show live from across the globe through the Housing TV mobile app. The mobile app features live streaming and trending housing news. You can locate the AIHS venue via the app, network with AIHS seasoned speakers, and live chat with exhibitors. You can also order house or building materials at AIHS via this app. Download the Housing TV mobile app now from the App Store and Google Play Store. And don't forget to click on the notification button. Available for both iOS and Android users. Housing TV is also on Star Times, channel 149 decoder.
You're still watching Housing TV News at the top of the hour. Now to the build sector. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Architect Ahmed Musa Dangiwa, has submitted an 83.7 billion naira budget proposal for 2025 to the Senate Committee on Housing, chaired by Senator Aminu Tambuwal. The proposal centers on the Renewed Hope Housing Initiative, which aims to deliver over 10,000 housing units across 14 locations nationwide, creating an estimated 252,000 skilled jobs. Dangiwa noted that delays in land allocation by some state governments pose a major challenge to the initiative. He also explained that increased allocations were necessary to address ongoing projects from previous budgets.
The program is expected to bridge the housing deficit through systemic increase in housing supply rate and across the Federation. Under the program, Your Excellency, we plan to build 50,000 housing units under Phase 1 across the country. Currently, we have over 10,112 housing units that are spread across the country under construction in 14 locations nationwide, creating 252,800 skilled jobs. We have made efforts to bring forward a magazine that shows all the project locations and during the groundbreaking which we did. And I think we have asked the Secretariat to distribute it to the members of the committee. This is the Renewed Hope Cities and Estates program that we did for the 14 states which you have stated. They are all spread across the country.
Senators expressed concern over awarding contracts without securing funds and raised questions about unutilized funds and incomplete projects.
Yes. And the remark is projects ongoing. Yes. My question on that is that you are aware that everything that has to do with 2023 appropriation, whether supplementary or the main budget, main appropriation, lapsed to 31st December last year. 31st December.
Yes.
So there is no more extension coming into 2024. So what it means is that everything about the supplementary appropriation should have been concluded. But from your report, you utilized only 77 billion, and 22 billion out of the amount released to you is still outstanding.
Raised, but I'm not too clear as to the minister's answer in terms of your mechanism, Honorable Minister, by which you intend to accomplish the first one, which is the one that 100 billion was released for. Because now in your answers you said the money you are even requesting, the 92 billion, doesn't even include the balance you need to finish it up. Do you have that 20-something billion in your ministry, or it wasn't released at all, or it was released and you returned it?
What could have been the reason why same government that in supplementary appropriation was able to give you 100 billion, in 2024 budget 162 billion, is now giving you 83 billion? I think we should really think through this. What informed this sudden shift by the executive? In the last 1 year, we can say you have been given 262 billion, and now we're battling to see how we're going to manage in this sector 83 billion, just about 50%, not up to 50% of about 30% of the previous budget. What could have informed that shift?
In his response, Dangiwa reassured the committee that project completion would not be hindered by outstanding debts, pledging to ensure that all ongoing developments are finalized as scheduled. The Housing Development Advocacy Network has called on the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development to explore alternative funding mechanisms to achieve its annual target of 20,000 housing units. In a statement signed by HDAN's Executive Director Festus Adebayo, the organization emphasized the challenges posed by declining budgetary allocations and rising construction costs, which hinder the ministry's efforts to address Nigeria's housing deficit. Adebayo advocated for partnerships with international financiers, private sector developers, and non-governmental organizations committed to affordable housing, stating that relying solely on government funding is insufficient. While commending the federal government's establishment of Mofi's Real Estate Investment Fund, he stressed the need for more innovative solutions, including public-private partnerships with developers focused on affordable housing rather than profit. HDAN also urged the government to create an enabling environment by providing land allocations, building waivers, and financial assistance to reduce housing costs for low-income earners. Now to Imo State, where the state governor, Hope Uzodimma, has announced plans to commence the construction of housing estates for low-income earners in Owerri, the state's capital, in 2025. This initiative, revealed by the Commissioner for Urban Development and Housing, Honorable Bide Eke, aims to address the housing challenges faced by middle-income earners in the state. The governor's 2025 budget highlights this project as a key focus, with announcements on its implementation expected in the coming weeks. Honorable Eke expressed concerns over communities encroaching on government-acquired land despite agreements and payments being made. He emphasized that Governor Uzodimma is reclaiming all such lands while ensuring private properties remain protected. He called on communities to respect agreements and for contractors to begin work immediately upon receiving mobilization funds, warning against legal battles and delays caused by improper practices. As part of the governor's mandate, the housing project seeks to foster affordable homes for residents while addressing land disputes and ensuring transparency. The government is committed to reclaiming all encroached lands and will hold developers accountable to deliver results promptly. The Office of the Auditor General of the Federation has instructed the Federal Housing Authority to account for a total of 2,567,477,924 naira 65 kobo spent without proper authorization. This directive is part of the Auditor General's annual report on non-compliance and internal weaknesses in federal ministries, departments and agencies for the year ending December 31, 2021, which was submitted to the National Assembly. The report highlights several irregularities, including the Federal Housing Authority's unapproved investment of 2,500 million naira in Federal Housing Authority Homes Limited, a mortgage bank it fully owns without any returns. Additionally, the Federal Housing Authority spent 10 million naira to engage external solicitors without approval from the Attorney General of the Federation in violation of established protocols. The report also flags the use of 7,956,157 naira 65 kobo for life assurance claims and identified improper payments for social events, cash advances and store items. In light of these violations, the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation has directed the Federal Housing Authority to recover and remit the disputed amounts to the Treasury, with evidence to be provided to the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly. The Lagos State government has set a target to complete the HDAN Waterworks project by 2027, aiming to provide millions of residents with access to potable water. The 5 billion naira initiative is expected to significantly improve the water supply in the region, which has faced consistent challenges in meeting the demands of the growing population. The Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, made this announcement during an inspection of the ongoing project, reiterating the government's commitment to sustainable water solutions for Lagos. The HDAN 2 project, initially started during former Governor Babatunde Fashola's administration, aims to produce 70 million gallons of water per day. Despite delays over the years, the project continues to progress with key upgrades such as the installation of a 1,600mm pipeline stretching over 8 kilometers. WAHAB also highlighted support from international organizations like the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, and WaterAid, which are assisting with smaller waterworks to address immediate needs in the area. In addition to the Adio 2 project, the Lagos State government is focusing on short-term measures to improve water access in underserved areas, strengthening existing infrastructure until the larger projects are completed. By the final quarter of 2027, WAHAB assured that most households in Lagos would have access to pipe-bomb water, marking a significant step in addressing the city's water supply challenges. To wrap up housing news at the top of the hour on the foreign scene, a devastating fire at the Grand Cartel Hotel in Balu, Turkey, claimed at least 76 lives and left dozens more injured. The blaze broke out at about 3:27 a.m. local time, engulfing the 12-story wooden hotel, which was fully occupied by 234 guests during the busy holiday season. The fire's cause is yet to be determined, but early reports suggest it started in the hotel's restaurant area on the 4th floor before spreading to higher levels. Emergency services were slow to respond due to the location's distance from the city center and the freezing weather, and it took 12 hours to extinguish the flames. Among the victims were a young swimmer, her mother, a well-known local businesswoman's daughter, and a prominent university professor. Survivors described desperate attempts to escape, with some jumping out of windows and others using sheets to climb down the building. Health officials reported 51 injuries, with one person in intensive care. A number of the victims were identified, including a family of 4 and a young chef working at the hotel. 9 people, including the hotel owner, have been arrested, and investigations into the fire's cause are ongoing. The hotel was last inspected in 2024 with no major fire safety concerns raised at the time. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has expressed his condolences, and flags will be flown at the half-mast as the nation mourns the loss of those affected by the tragedy at the popular Boliski resort. 9 Palestinians have been killed and 35 others injured during a major Israeli military operation in Jenin, located in the occupied West Bank. The operation, which included airstrikes and a large-scale ground invasion supported by drones and helicopters, targeted the city and its refuge camp, long regarded as a stronghold for Palestinian armed groups. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described the operation, dubbed Iron Wall, as an effort to defeat terrorism and bolster security in the region. The operation follows a ceasefire agreement in Gaza and highlights the escalating violence in the West Bank, where tensions have risen since the Hamas attack on Israel in October 2023. Palestinian security forces reported that several of their personnel were wounded, and the city of Jenin was reportedly besieged with armored bulldozers digging up streets. That's the much we can take on Housing TV News at the top of the hour. Before we go, a quick recap of our top stories. Tinubu approves Federal Polytechnic in Gwarimpa, names it after himself. Minister Bosun explains 50% telecom tariff hike due to rising costs. Governor Uzodinma to launch affordable housing projects for low-income earners in Owerri. Auditor General directs Federal Housing Authority to account for 2.57 billion naira spent without approval. On the foreign scene, tragic fire claims 76 lives at Turkish ski resort hotel. For more news in the housing sector, subscribe to Housing TV Africa on YouTube and follow Housing TV on all social media platforms. Download the Housing TV Africa mobile app on Google Play Store and Apple Store. I'm Joyce Onso. Thanks for watching.